Kate and Guy. That was wonderful. It's great to look out and see all of you. It really is. Makes me happy. So in planning for our services, I try to focus on something every month. And I felt like this is a big month in terms of other spiritual traditions, Christianity, with all of Lent going on, the 40 days, and basically it's representative of the 40 days that Jesus was in the wilderness, not counting Sundays. So, and your booklet actually has a daily meditation and a little reading for you, and it's all about our mental and metaphysical fasting of what it is that we want to release in our life. And you may get to day 5 and realize, hey, I don't need to release this because I'm not carrying it anymore, which would be an amazing thing to be aware of. And I think as Unity students, we have this opportunity to be kind of clear consciousness more and more. But I thought, well, this is going to be a great month for us to really focus on Unity teachings. Not that I don't focus on Unity teachings every Sunday, but a lot of times we'll bring in other ideas, and I thought it would be a great thing to kind of anchor us again in why I'm here, not just here, but why Unity is a part of my life. And I really see Unity as a way of life. I don't see it as a religion or a denomination or even a church. It's about a way of thinking and being in the world, a way of showing up in the world. And so I thought it would be really great for us this whole month. And hopefully many of you will be coming every Sunday, and also some of you coming to the Lessons in Truth class. We're kind of basing it on some of the teachings that are part of Lessons in Truth. Lessons in Truth was written as one of the first. You can see my book is a little dog-eared. I got it in 1990 on my birthday, so I've had it for a while, and I think I have other copies, but this is kind of my fave, you know. It was written not by one of the co-founders of Unity, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, but it was written by a woman, Emily Cady, who was a homeopath in the late 1800s, and she was very tuned into the teachings of New Thought and metaphysics. And the Fillmores asked her to write articles for Unity magazine one a week, talking about what are the lessons that Unity has to teach. And we call it Lessons in Truth. It's not called Lessons in Unity, it's called Lessons in Truth. And I think that's an important thing for us to kind of anchor in as we begin to really take our understanding of Unity and, more importantly, our experience of Unity to a deeper level this month, because we're talking about truth, which is not about things in the outer. And we are bombarded in our world with stuff in the outer right now. And people are like beside themselves with stuff in the outer right now. Lessons in Truth is not about that stuff in the outer, but it's about how we can anchor ourselves into knowing the absolute anchor and truth of who we are, the only believe, the truth of who we are as spiritual beings, and what we carry in our consciousness that allows us to be responsible for what's going on in the outer in our own world. We're responsible for our thoughts, and we take responsible action based on what guidance we receive. So it's really important for us to be mindful of that. That's why I put that statement, there's only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe. God the good in all, through all, and over all. And you know, this is the basis of Unity. And when I was kind of thinking about this talk, how am I going to frame it, I decided that rather than read Unity things, I would read something someone wrote about Unity, because it's kind of interesting to get a different perspective. And the book I chose is this book is called The Unity Way. It was written in the 80s, and it was written by a man who basically was a researcher. He wasn't really a scholar. He researched different spiritual traditions. So he studied Buddhism, he studied Hinduism, he studied different forms of Christianity, and he lived in Kansas City. And he actually came out of a kind of Reform German background, so not exactly Lutheran. And he said he tried to be a minister for like about a month, and he just couldn't hack it. I guess his family they were ministers. But he found unity and knew Charles Fillmore and spent lots and lots of time at Unity Village. And even when he would travel all over the world, he constantly would come back to Unity because it gave him so much of a sense of how to live his own life. And he really began to understand how Unity, just its name tells us, is not just about the teachings of Jesus and Christianity, but it's about teaching us wisdom of all world religions, coming through a filter of the time, which was Christianity for Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. So as I was reading this book, what he did was he brought alive some aspects of unity that I wasn't really aware of. And the thing that really kind of made me just kind of set up and think about my own life is, each one of us found the door to unity because something was going on in our lives. Something was going on in your life, and you were looking for answers. You might not have known you were looking for answers, because sometimes that happens, right? You might have been, just looking for a book in the bookstore, and something fell off, and all of a sudden you got ignited. Or you might have had a problem in your life. You might have had an issue around a relationship. You might have had something going on in your physical body. You might have had a prosperity issue. For me, at the time, and I'm not going to do my story because that's a different thing, but I was dealing with the end of a marriage, my second, so I clearly was not great at marriage. Although, of course, I thought it was his fault because, of course, it was. And I was dealing with alcohol, and family, and my father had passed away. I mean, there was just like boom, 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 all this stuff going on. And somehow I met somebody who had peace. She was like this super peaceful person. I'm like, oh, I just want what you have, And so I came to Unity. And I wept in the back row for months and snuck out because I didn't want to talk to anybody, and because it was all about me. But think about it in your own life. Unity was, for most people, unity was the answer to something that wasn't working in their life. And I was kind of looking back and realizing how unity can be the answer for a lot of people right now, because a lot of people have a lot of things that are not working in their life. We know that. That's where I'm seeing you as like this spark, just light the flame, and you're a spark no matter where you go. Your unity glow is, you can't escape it. But I was thinking, and as I was reading this book, about the kind of the impetus of unity. And it's interesting because Charles Fillmore, so Unity was founded by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And many people will say, well, Myrtle really founded it because Myrtle was the one who had tuberculosis as a young woman. And, in her early 40s with 3 kids, she had tuberculosis, and it was one of those, you inherited it, everybody got it, you got your feet wet, you're going to die early because you've got this disease. And she picked up the thought, I'm a child of God, and I do not inherit sickness. That's not the nature of the divine, this presence of the divine. So people will say, well, Unity was founded because of Myrtle's healing. And at some level it was. But if you look at Charles Fillmore was a very curious dude. He was, and they were, he was born in like 1845, something like that. She was a little bit older than he was. He lived on a Chippewa ranch. He was born in Minnesota. His dad was a trapper, left the family really early, so he basically grew up with his mother. And he had a lot of odd jobs as a child. And when he was 10 or 11 years old, he had a skating accident. And he had an injury in one of his legs, and most of his life, one leg was considerably shorter than the other, so he wore like a shoe. P.S. over his lifetime, he grew his leg, but that's another story about his leg growing. But again, it's kind of a testament to the power, the power of truth, the power of the energy within us. The thing about Charles was he was a very curious fellow. He didn't have a formal education, but the wife of his boss, he worked as a printer's devil. And I don't know what a devil is, but I imagine it was a helper. But there's sort of a devilish quality to Charles Filmer when you start to get to know the guy a little bit. But this man's wife was very well read. And so Charles Filmer grew up reading Shakespeare. He loved Tennyson, he loved poetry, and Myrtle went to Oberlin College, which was very, in that day, for young women, that was a big deal. She studied literature. When they met, they had sort of a meeting of the minds at this level of poetry, Charles loved Emerson, the transcendentalists, and their connection was at the realm of ideas. It was at the realm of philosophy. And, they would go to their regular churches and then they would get together, and that's how unity started. It would be people would go to the Methodist or Congregational, and then they'd meet afterwards for basket lunch in the garden, and they'd talk about all these incredible ideas. And one of the ideas that really sparked Charles was Emerson's essay that was written in, I think it was written in like 1840, called The Oversoul. And it was an essay where Emerson, who was very attuned to nature, we know, but talked about this one presence, this oversoul presence that not only connects all things as if we're in a matrix connecting us, but that also we are part of that energy. And so Charles was very curious and very fascinated by all this. So unity, and Charles was a businessman. Maybe not always a great businessman, but he would invest in things. He invests in gold mines. He was kind of a speculator. He was out in Colorado speculating, and he was in Texas speculating. So he had sort of this interesting prosperity consciousness. And he was willing to try. He was an adventurer. And Myrtle had her physical issues that were really beginning to happen. And so it's interesting to me that we think about in our own life, we find our spiritual kind of ground of being by these things that are not quite working in our life. Maybe it's an issue around prosperity. We're looking for our purpose when we're in our 30s and 40s, and we want to know, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? How can I pay my rent? Things like that. Or even for many now in their 70s and 80s, how can I pay my rent? These questions of prosperity and abundance, which Charles was very much aware of that. In fact, there was one, they bought what has become Unity Village, which is many, many acres now. They bought 58 acres of land just south of Kansas City in 1919, right before everything crashed. They started to develop it, and then they just had to stop because they didn't have any more money. And eventually, after the crash, they came back. But one of the things that was going on during that time was they were running out of money. They didn't have money. They had a publishing company, and they were publishing articles, and they were doing prayer every night. They had silent unity going. But at one point, they had a big meeting, and somebody had the wisdom to say, we need to pray that the money doesn't run out. And Myrtle said, no, we need to pray that our faith doesn't run out. It's about our faith. It's not about the money. And that was the core of what unity was about having a belief in the truth of who we are, whole and healthy all the time. And, as unity grew from an idea that Charles and Myrtle had, They started writing about these ideas. They put the ideas out as a magazine. They had, every single night, they would gather in prayer at the same time. It was 9 o'clock at night. It would be in their home for a while, and eventually it grew to be bigger. And that became really the ground of what is now Silent Unity, where they're literally at Unity Village outside of Kansas City. On the top of one of the buildings, there's a little tiny chapel, about the size of our bookstore, and there's always a person in there praying all the time. And outside that chapel, there are little drawers, and all the prayers that, if you write a prayer on our prayer list, we pray here for you for 30 days, and we send it to Silent Unity, and that piece of paper goes in one of those drawers and gets prayed upon for another 30 days by the people who are up Silent Unity. This has been going on for over 100 years. Silent Unity's prayer. You can call Silent Unity anytime, day or night, and you'll get an answer. Somebody will pray with you. You can send them a prayer. That was a foundation of unity. But they began to kind of expand. They had radio going on. As they started developing the grounds of Silent Unity, one of their sons, they had 3 sons, Waldo Rickard, named after our favorite, right, Ralph Waldo, and Lowell, I forget what Lowell's other name was, and then a son named Royal, who was her 3rd son. She called him Royal because he was her king, her 3rd son, and he finally passed. He passed away not as a young lad, but Rickard was an architect. He studied in Europe. He studied at the Art Institute, and he's the one who designed Unity Village. And it's quite, I don't know if any of you have been, has anybody here been to the village? Oh, yay, cool. Because it's so incredible to be there and to understand. He built this tower, which was to be like a light for Unity. At the time, it was all farmland. He built this tower, and they discovered as they were drilling on the land that they had natural gas. And so they had their own system to run all the buildings, to run all the heat. And he built this tower and put water tanks in this tower. So it's their water system as part of this tower. Not only is it a place where people are praying as well. The land became a local, almost like a country club for Unity Village. There was a pool, there was a golf course, there was a place for retreats, there's a Unity Chapel, a big place for people to have church on Sunday, and classes. So he had a vision that he carried from all the way from Europe. If you go, you'll see it looks like you're in Italy. There are fountains, and it's quite an extraordinary place. Just as I was reading about it, it made me want to go back to be there, because you feel something on the grounds. You know, it's like walking into a big cathedral, except you're on this massive, beautiful piece of land. So that one son was he took responsibility for the architecture of the place. Charles Fillmore, who sat in the silence every day, because silence is such a big, big part of the understanding of who and what we are, that unity really anchors us into the journey that we make to connect with the divine in the stillness and the silence. You know, I think it's interesting. Yesterday I was at a memorial service for a very dear friend, and it was just interesting because a woman I haven't seen for maybe 25 years, our kids went to school together, she came up to me and she asked me what I was doing, and you know, I said, I have this wonderful church and I teach meditation and do coaching, and she went on to tell me about how she'd heard some man talk about how important meditation was, and I was kind of like, well, duh. I'm like, where have you been? You know, and like, oh, he's so amazing, you know, we're supposed to exercise and we're supposed to eat right and we're supposed to get enough sleep, and meditation's really good. I'm like, wow, this is scary to me. You know, but this is a huge part of what Charles Fillmore knew, which is for us to go apart, to not be focusing on what's happening in the outer, but to bring our attention, bring our awareness to what's going inside ourselves. And you know, it's an interesting journey to do that because, like, I was meditating this morning. I was sitting and all of a sudden I found my mind. I became aware that I was rewriting something that I had done. I did a slideshow for my friend's memorial. I was rewriting in my mind how I should have done the slideshow. And all of a sudden I had this realization, you're thinking about yourself again. You're thinking about yourself. You're not open to what's, but I just want to, challenge you to start noticing how much we think about ourselves. And it's a trap. It's a rabbit hole. And whether you're rewriting the past, which I was trying to do, useless. It's kind of like trying to change your partner, useless, not going to happen, right? Anybody tried? I call it divorce, basically, but, it's that, you get yourself in that little trap, or you're trying to create an impossible future because you're terrified about something. And so becoming aware, this is part of what we're doing with the Lent process, of becoming aware of the thoughts that we're thinking. And, Charles was doing his meditation daily. He was connecting in to the living spirit of truth. He wasn't connecting into what Charles Fillmore did yesterday. And out of that, he wrote the Metaphysical Dictionary, right? Taking all these places from the Bible, characters from the Bible, and showing us how this is part of my evolving journey in consciousness. It's part of my journey in the physical body as well. So just looking at that family, Charles being sort of he's a businessman, he's very entrepreneurial. I think a lot of us have that spirit. I was thinking this morning as I was driving, I think everybody I know in Unity is a little odd. Unique, yes, unique. But we all have that, there's kind of a little spirit there. Like Charles had that spirit. There's an impish quality. There's just like curiosity.
I'm crazy.
Not weird isn't a good word. Weird's a good word for me. I mean, I'd rather be that than a lot of other things. But so anyway, so Charles had this entrepreneurial, so I feel like his teachings really, they gear toward the prosperity consciousness of things. We can take our thoughts and then create through actions, bringing prosperity into the world, and by the things that we're called to do as God's hands and feet in the world. Myrtle, on the other hand, she was the heart of unity, connecting to people. Her ministry was writing letters to people. They would write to her and she would write back to them. She was always affirming the truth of what was going on. And most of her things were people needed either healing in relationships or they needed healing in the physical body. And so that was her vision. And I think in our own life, we have this need to be creative and co-create with God and to have prosperity in our lives and do something that has meaning and value for us, right? But we also want to be in a place of health and vitality in the physical body and also in a place of connection and love in our relationships. And I think unity brings these things together. So, and when I was looking more at the family, the other son in the family was Lowell. And I don't think I'd ever really looked at anything. But Lowell ran Unity Village for quite a long time. And what I put in your bulletin was I found this thing, he did a lot of writing, and he had this thing he called them metaphysical gadgets. And basically what they were he had really short little affirmations that he used for particular situations. So I just gave them to you just right out of his book. He has a book, and you can find it online. And P.S., while I'm saying this, I'm just going to let you know, in your bulletin, there is a write-up about my class. And at the bottom of that write-up is a link to, there's a man named Mark Hicks who has taken all the old Unity books and he's turned them into PDFs. People know what a PDF is. You can download it. You don't need some sort of special, software. All the Unity books are in this man's truthunity.net. So you want to read Lessons in Truth, you can read it online. You're probably not going to download, 90 pages, but you can read all these things online. You can type in Charles Fillmore, and he gives you all the books Fillmore has written. He has all the books Lowell Fillmore has written. So that's where I got this, off of Truth Unity. I just copied it. But I thought it was a really important thing to kind of understand the power that this family, it was a family, it was a legacy that came through a family. And when you think about family, there's so many things that happen in our families, right? We have issues in our family. Issues. We need to feed our family. We need to be healed in our family. We have family over here. They're laughing at each other. I love it. Yeah. But this was a family. This was a family legacy that comes to us in our own lives to carry forward in our own family and the families we're creating. And we're a family right here. So I think it's really powerful to understand kind of the roots of these individuals and how as they came together in this deep understanding of the presence and the power of truth, of the divine, of God, call it presence, call it the living spirit of truth, call it light, call it one, whatever you want to call it. Matthew Fox's book, One River, Many Wells. There's many, many different wells. Unity's affirming that one river as an aspect of each one of us, that divine field that's in each one of us. And it's really powerful to begin to understand when they were working on healing, one of the things that they talked about was, Unity kind of came out of Christian Science. Charles and Myrtle were Christian Science practitioners. It came out of Phineas Quimby, who was a character. He was a healer, a faith healer, mesmerism, these people who were healing through faith, basically. One of the things they talked about is they realized that people do not heal. Faith healers don't heal. None of us heal unless the person, the patient, they call it, and the healer have no fear in the field. No, you get totally out of fear. If you've got fear in the field, whether the patient doesn't realize, that they're a child of God, that there's health and vitality in their body, or the healer's just spouting words and not holding that as a truth, the healing can't totally happen. And I was thinking about that because we have one of our very favorite people in the whole world in the hospital right now. Charlie's in the hospital, and he's been there for a really long time. And what I want to tell you is he has a faith that's like this. I mean, you go to see him in the hospital, and he's talking about how great the nurses are. And I mean, he has no problem with his faith. So I would like to do this right this very minute. I'd like to ask you if you can have faith for Charlie's healing. Can you hold and know that he is a divine child of God? That we can hold a space for him right here and right now. So I invite you to close your eyes and see our wonderful Charlie. Such a funny, funny, funny man, holding the space for this church. See and know that he is going to come back here and be back in Charlie's office, feeling strong, feeling vitally alive, feeling the strength and power that is flowing through him as God life, as God breath, as the heartbeat of God moving in and through him now. And we give thanks as a collective, as a community, as a family of faith, that Charlie is whole and healthy as a child of God. We bless this prayer. We bless all those who serve him, who heal him, who hold him. And we send this prayer off to Charlie right here and right now to match that energy of faith that is held in his heart. And we say, thank you, thank you, thank you, God, for wholeness, health, and vitality. Charlie Ott, and so it is. I wasn't planning on doing that, but oh well, it just happened. It feels like the right thing because we love Charlie. So anyway, Charlie's like a special guy. Anyway, I could talk for hours about these incredible roots of healing, but it's really important for us to understand that some of the basic unity teachings, which are in the Lessons in Truth, and I put it in the bulletin there, you can see, we're going to be talking about thinking. What does thinking mean? I'll talk about that a little bit next week. It's one of the chapters, talking about the nature of who we are, as spirit, soul, and body. The aspect of spirit being that higher consciousness, that oversoul that Emerson wants to talk about. The soul being that aspect of who we are in consciousness that can connect with higher consciousness, but also gets like pulled into what Fillmore would call the race consciousness. And we think of it as collective. There's collective consciousness is just gone rampant out there right now. And I think race consciousness, I think it's racing. It's just like there's just so much of it. But that soul aspect, that consciousness aspect of who each one of us, we carry it, we can turn to the divine. We can sit in that time of meditation and prayer and be connected into the stillness, be connected into the wholeness of who we are. We can claim that we're a child of God, that the light and love of the divine moves through us in every moment. We can do that. Or that aspect of soul can get caught up in the news, get caught up in a conversation with somebody who wants to pull us into their world of ain't it awful, and we have a choice. The soul is, my minister, Richard Manti, Unity and Marin, he used to say the soul is pivotal. The soul is can go up to spirit or can go down and grab onto the easy stuff, that everybody else is talking about. So we're called for that, spirit, soul, and then body. And body is manufactured through that soul energy, connecting us with the truth of who we are. And surrounding ourselves with people who hold the truth of who we are is such an important thing for us to do all the time. So this whole focus during Lent, when I opened it, I was kind of really? I don't feel like I'm holding a lot of resentment. I don't want to spend April 1st releasing resentment. But, it's probably a really good reminder that some of these things that they're inviting us, I release doubt, I release hostility, I release apathy, I release worry. Just a reminder, don't focus on it, just allow it to move through you. And then there's always affirmations, because the way denial works, it's we got cobwebs. I have cobwebs in my house. I do, I have to confess. But, it's whoop, let's get rid of that little guy. It's not, we're going to get, the army is coming because there's a negative thought. We're just giving it a little light. Let's get it out of here, but let's put something else in its place. A dream catcher or something. I don't know. Anyway, I think I'm going to have to stop talking because I could just keep talking. But I love unity so much. So we're going to flow through Lessons in Truth, and I hope more of you will sign up. It's going to be a really fun class. I love doing a class, and I drive all the way up to be with you, and it'll be really fun. Anyway, thank you guys. We're going to have a meditation though. You're not going to get away without having some time in silence. That would be like anti-unity. The lights are going out. Good. There we go. So I invite you to just put everything aside. And take a moment, just do a little wiggle and feel your body, because you got this body this go round. Another go round, maybe different body, but this time it's yours. Feel yourself settled into the chair. And taking a nice deep and a conscious breath, being conscious of the movement of the air, the breath moving through your nostrils or through your mouth down into your chest, expanding the chest. And on that next breath, slow down your exhalation. And one more inhalation. And slowly, slowly exhale, relaxing the body more deeply. And take a moment just bringing to mind your first experience of unity or new thought, of a new way of connecting to the truth of who you are. Just bring it to mind. Maybe a person comes before your closed eyes, or a place, or a book. And feeling your oneness, your connection, time and space with that moment. Unity insists that all life is one, and that everything in life is related to everything else. There is a line, a chain of circumstance, a continuity, and in it all things work together for good. Unity believes that chance is God at work, that a hunch is the whispering of divinity, that what we call fate is cosmic purpose, and that coincidence is immutable law. We live with a horizon that has no ending. Begin to feel this vastness, this vast, infinite vision that is your life. Feel the deep adventure in faith that is a life filled with higher consciousness. Take a moment right now and just rest in the wisdom and gratitude that you have found this gift, these teachings, and that they support your life in so many ways. And bringing into awareness any particular area of life that wants more light, that needs more truth and grace, more love, more power, more of God's abundant resources. Feel and know in this moment, I am here in this moment by divine appointment, and God makes straight my path. The love of God manifests through me now, and I'm filled with light, I'm filled with wisdom, and I'm filled with peace. offering gratitude for the stillness, for the grace and the blessing of gathering here today by divine appointment, all of us, for the gift and grace and legacy of the Fillmores and all those who've come before and all those who've joined us on the journey and will continue to journey with us. We are ever grateful. And in the heart, we feel gratitude and we say gratitude. Thank you, God. And so it is. And ever so gently bringing your awareness back into your physical body. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. We're going to sing one of my very favorite songs. Yeah.
All right. Let's continue to be in the glow and the flow of our own lives. And for those of you who are comfortable, would you like to stand for this song? We